If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. In fact, I'm recording this on my phone. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. In Season 2 of Hacks and Hobbies, we're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, I have the honor of speaking with Quentin Allams. I met Quentin or connected with him through LinkedIn and have been following his journey. He is an amazing influencer, a content creator, just an overall awesome human being. He is also the CEO and co-founder of Urban Misfit Adventures. He spent a lot of time building the company and interviewing some amazing minds on the planet. And he also has a amazing new podcast, rebranded podcast, Strange on Purpose. So Quentin, thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So I've been following your journey and it's been pretty exciting. And besides you, I've also been following Eric Didier and the amazing things you guys have been doing on LinkedIn. Last year, it's just totally blown up, and I just love where you guys came from and where you're headed. It's nonstop. I love it.
I appreciate it, man. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to have it. I mean, there's no other way to do it. That's you just got to dig in and make it happen. So. I'm not sure if any of my audience has the opportunity to find out your story. So wanted to see if you could share some of your journey, some of your story and how you got here.
Yeah. So as you said, like I'm the CEO of Urban Misfit Ventures.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing for us is that none of us really come from much.
Mm-hmm.
We all have humble beginnings. We all struggled when we were younger. And the biggest thing for us is we want to show people that resourcefulness is always going to be more important than resources. So that's the main thing for us. And like just a little bit about me and when I was growing up, just moved around a lot, didn't have money. Like I was homeless a couple of times, came into college, bounced around, used music as a way to make money and put myself out there and learn a lot about myself. But ultimately I decided that it wasn't for me. Use that to start getting into marketing and social media and things like that. I worked with a bunch of startups, worked with a bunch of companies, agencies, and did a couple freelance things outside of that as well. Yeah. At the end of my college career, I declined 2 full-time jobs, which essentially would have been like my dream job, but I only would have been doing social media and I wanted to build something. So I launched my first agency and I launched my first virtual reality startup. VR startup failed, and then the agency I struggled with for about 2 years, a year and a half. But within there, somewhere along the line, end of 2017, I believe, I jumped on LinkedIn and things just started taking off. And like first view was 30,000 views. From there, like 50, 100, and a million just kept growing. And it really just stemmed from that first video, which was me talking about how I was afraid to make videos, even though I had made so many videos before that. So that is kind of how I got here. And I just kept telling my story and I kept sharing and creating videos and pushing myself. And I built the team that I have now, and it's been a lot of fun.
Wow, dude, that's really cool. So you're just constantly creating video and posting them on LinkedIn to gain understanding or to get feedback. Like, what was the initial goal behind the videos?
Yeah. So originally I started on YouTube and I posted a lot of videos, maybe 100 something, just talking about my life, keeping a diary. Moved to all these different platforms.
Yeah.
When I came to LinkedIn, the main goal was, it wasn't to brand myself. It was to prove that I could do what I was saying I could do for my clients for myself. So ultimately it was to make money. It was so I wouldn't be struggling anymore. So that's why that's why I started. That's why I stayed.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm still creating is because I love it, dude. It does generate a lot of traffic for my company now. It does help me get speaking engagements. It does a lot of those things, but I love creating.
That's amazing. I've also always been a creator myself, not just video, but photos and creating designs. And like I come from a design background, been designing since the 90s, using Microsoft Word, doing desktop publication in Microsoft Word, and just been creating all sorts of content. And just recently I was like, okay, there's video on LinkedIn. Let's see what it can do for me. And I haven't been as consistent as I promised myself to be. And that's mainly that mainly happens when you have a full-time duty as a father or full-time duty as a husband and a full-time job. It's like, okay, when do I take the time out to actually do this?
Yeah.
And it's been a pretty crazy journey for me myself. And recently I was like, I'm just gonna focus on my own business, my own thing, and that's what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks, and putting everything in place. I mean, I would like to have a agency like you've created, but I know I've got some ways to go. But it's definitely a good place to be for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it is hard when you've got a lot of commitments.
Yep. You've got the Strange on Purpose podcast. How did that come into play? Was this around the time while you already had a company going, and also want to talk about VR a little later?
Yeah. So Strange on Purpose podcast was originally the Urban Misfit show. We wanted to play around with podcasting. We saw the opportunity and we wanted to talk to cool people. So we just started, but we realized that that podcast wasn't a brand. And the thing with our company is that, yes, like we have an agency, that's one of our companies, but Urban Misfit Ventures owns multiple companies.
Yeah.
We want our podcast to be its own business, its own company. It's not just going to be a podcast. And we still wanted it to speak to who we are and what we were looking to accomplish. So that's why we rebranded into Strange on Purpose, because it's brandable. It speaks to who we are and we can do a lot of things with that. But it did happen while we were building MK Misfits and IEEG, which is our agency.
Nice. That's very cool. Podcasting is really exciting for me because I've been thinking of doing podcasts for past 8 years. And then in 2012, I finally started. But then it was like a false start. I did like 3 or 4 episodes with my cousins. And I didn't have the concept of just doing a podcast on my own. Like, oh, why don't I just do it on my own? And that came to being because I have so many hobbies, and my friends and colleagues were like, well, why don't you just talk about your hobbies on your podcast? You have so many. Every week you're looking at a totally brand new thing. And I'm like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. And then around the same time, I was also reading Crushing It. And Gary Vee just says, document the process of whatever you're doing. Just document it no matter how you do it. And I was just getting into beekeeping around that time. I just taken a class. I was like, I'm going to document this process of beekeeping. So that's where Hacks and Hobbies started. And
awesome,
it's been pretty exciting, talking about bees. And we have a new class going. So I'll be mentoring like 4 new beekeepers this spring.
Nice.
So it's super exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. So let's see, where should we go? You had mentioned something about virtual reality and how you had a startup around virtual reality. What's that about?
Yeah, so at the end of my college career, I was working for Voyage Virtual Media. And essentially, they were at the time, they had just pivoted into essentially taking data and allowing you to see that within virtual reality. They did a lot of other things. They were building video games and things like that.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from them. And I really fell in love with this space. What I learned, though, is that that is not my space. I'm not a developer. And I was teaching myself how to do all of these things. I was teaching myself how to 3D model, and I built team after team after team, but I really had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
So essentially what I was building was, as far as we got anyway, was essentially just the MVP. You walk into a coffee shop and you order coffee in Spanish, but you're in virtual reality. That's literally all I did. So it really wasn't even a company. It was just a product.
Sure.
But it did teach me a lot about what kind of leader I was and what I lacked and what I was good at and where my strengths actually lied and what I should be leaning into.
Very cool. Yeah. I've been playing with virtual reality for a few years. Just, I've been wanting to create spaces that you can walk in and play around, but everything, it requires so much time. The learning curve is massive, right? To get up to speed to building something in that space, it's like, all right, you need somebody who knows their way around it. And it totally makes sense where, when they say, anytime you're hiring somebody for a position, make sure they know more than you do. Because if you hire somebody who knows less than you do, then you're going to be, hand holding and not really let them take the lead and take you to the next level. And the more I see things around me expanding, the more I see, okay, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see both ways.
You can see what? Okay.
I do agree that you should hire people better than you are. I think that's one of the coolest thing, especially as a founder, bringing someone on, seeing them do what you were going to do better than you would, but also you got to move. And a lot of times startups don't have a lot of capital to work with. So you have to sometimes be okay with hiring those 6s when you're a 10 at something.
Sure.
And you got to be able to train them and invest in them. So I see both ways, but I do agree that people being better is ideal.
Nice. So it also says here that you're a TEDx speaker on your profile.
So I have my first TEDx coming up. I'm not actually a speaker yet. It's next month.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So congratulations on that, man. That's pretty exciting.
No, I appreciate it. It's been stressful as hell a lot goes into it, but I'm excited. Hopefully it'll go well,
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking, who was I talking to? I was listening to a podcast episode. I think Donnie Boivin had done an episode where he was interviewing, and so this gentleman, he used to be in the Marines, and he somehow got into being a TEDx speaker. And then he walks down through, through the different things about how to get picked out. You need to be friends with the event coordinators. You need to know what the theme is for the event, so then you can market yourself properly as a speaker. And I think it brings a lot of traffic to your company and to your product and to your services too, right?
Yeah, it does. I'm planning I think they're pretty cool, but we'll see how it goes. But I'm planning some pretty cool marketing things leading up to it and then after it. But it definitely drives a lot of traffic. I did not go the route that you just outlined for him in terms of friends. I think that's genius, and I do recommend it for other people. But for me, all I did, I was suggested to one in California, but they wanted all locals, so I didn't get that one.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, damn, it's one of my dreams. So I just Googled really quick, and there was an application that was due that day. So I put it in for Milwaukee, and then they called me.
Nice. I guess it also makes sense, right? If you're local to a space where there's limited number of speakers in that specific topic, you have a better chance of getting picked up, right? Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
I also spoke with Carrie Heap, and she runs a organization down in Florida, and they cater to speakers. And she had some really good points about what you need to look at and how you market yourself. Because as a speaker, I know you're more than just a speaker, but it was very targeted to speakers and really interesting. What's cool is I get to talk with awesome people, awesome, cool folks like you, and I get to learn so many awesome things. interviewing some of the greatest minds, and you get to like absorb. It's like it's almost like reading a audiobook, but then you get to ask questions of the stories. All right. So let's see. So some questions regarding podcasting, because you are a podcaster. So what advice would you have for someone that's starting a brand new podcast?
I would say don't stress the details. Don't worry about the equipment. Just start. Most podcasts end after I think it's like 12 months or 6 months or something like that, or 12 episodes. I'm getting the numbers mixed up, but it's not a lot. So long as you can stay consistent, it's very, very easy to stand out. Also, a lot of the top podcasts don't use high quality equipment. They don't even use video yet. So just start. I know that's super, super cliche. Outside of that, I would just say do your research on your guests and maybe like listen to other podcasts and other interviews that they've had and ask them questions that they haven't been asked. Look for things that like read between the lines in those interviews and their posts that they're doing, and like make them feel super, super special, and prove that you are different than other podcasts. And then lastly, I would just say ask good questions, and don't just listen to respond, listen to actually understand, because you're going to get you're going to be able to pull a lot more out of that person if you're listening to understand, not just listening to give a good response.
No, you're absolutely right. And I know that applies to me a lot too, because I'm working a lot on getting better at it. And hopefully when we get to chat again, I would have better questions.
No, you're good, man. I think we're all improving, man, as we all should.
Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned about, most of the top podcasts are not even using video. What do you mean by that? Is that some kind of marketing techniques that you
like we're able to stand out tremendously because we have a video, like a podcast. We're still a podcast, but the snippets don't look like most people's snippets. So we stand out super easy, and we're able to drive a lot of traffic. So just small things like that. How can you be different? How can you be strange on purpose?
Is it because you're starting with a video and then using that audio as the podcast? Or
no. So
the purpose of it?
We record them both. So we have one on YouTube that goes with everything, but and then we do some B-roll and things like that for the intro. But we also just have the audio equipment set up, but then it's recorded through the camera as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, you definitely have to have an amazing setup and have expertise in that area, right? To get to that, or some level of expertise or some level of time commitment in that area.
Yeah, it helps. Just play around with it, see what you like, see what your audience likes, and you'll get the hang of it.
Yeah, awesome.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, sweet. All right, so since this is a Hacks and Hobbies podcast, and we like talking about hobbies, so what is one of the hobbies that you wish you got into in your life?
I don't think I wish I got into anything. I think I'm exactly where I need to be, exactly where I want to be. I'd say I am very big into like video games and esports, but it's not necessarily a hobby. I do want to turn that into a career, not so much playing, but building and owning an esports organization, I think. But I don't believe there's a hobby that I wish I would have got into. Maybe like piano or something. I'm a guitar player, but I wish I was better at piano.
Okay, nice. Yeah, piano is something that I wish I had learned, but my background or my parents, they're strictly against music. So,
wow.
Like, all right. Like, we don't do that. We don't do string instruments, and but I mean, I love music. I just didn't get to play a whole lot. All right. Next question. What is one of your favorite movies or TV shows? And if not, how about a book?
I would say my favorite movie is Remember Me, which is probably an odd movie, and not a lot of people have seen it, but it's Robert Pattinson. Essentially, it's not about 9/11, but it includes 9/11. But there's one of my favorite quotes coming from there, and it's something along the lines of, there will be times where you feel insignificant. There will be times where you are insignificant, but it's still important that you take action. And I think that is one of my favorite quotes, because as entrepreneurs, as people, as humans, like we feel like that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's still important that we take action because we're always causing ripples in the universe no matter what. So I'd say that's one of my favorite movies outside of like Batman and anything superheroes, because I love that. And then favorite book would probably be Power of Habit.
Oh, habits. Oh my God. Habits are such powerful, amazing things.
They are.
If you've read the book One Thing.
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, he talks about, you have to like do this, like habit forming is a technique in itself, right? It's you're basically hacking your brain to learn something new that you can add to your existing things that you do on a daily basis. And
I
think they're pretty amazing things. Somebody mentioned, and it's like the fear of saying something wrong versus being like present in like somebody who's so super successful. I'm like, all right, I don't want to say something off or weird. What is something that you're looking forward for this year?
You said what's something that I'm looking forward to this year?
Yeah, for this year, yeah. Looking forward to this year.
I think just the year in general, man. There's a lot of firsts for me. Like this isn't my first company, but it's the first time that I've had real employees. It's the first summer that I'll have an office of my own, like a lot of firsts for me. Like we're traveling, doing my first TEDx, things like that. Just a year as a whole. I'm excited to see my team grow. I'm excited to push my team to grow. I'm excited to keep interviewing awesome people and just improve on my own skills because I don't know. I love everything about this. So I would say just a year as a whole, I'm super, super excited for.
Very, very awesome, man. Some other questions that we have that fall into the hobby areas. We already talked about your hobby, what you wish you had, favorite movie. Next one is, what is your favorite superhero? And you mentioned something about Batman, but I'm not sure if that's your favorite superhero.
Hands down, Batman, man. Like hands down, always has been. I love all superheroes, but Batman. I even tested it with like a brand anchor when I was first starting, but I always wear like a Batman necklace that's hand carved out of a face that a friend got me. Like Batman, just because like one, he's just a human, but he has taken down every single superhero in the freaking universe. He's just a person, like he's just a dude that's like, damn, there's a problem. I'm gonna go fix it. I'm gonna continue to ignore my limits and push them and find out what my limits really are. But that's just always been, regardless if it's a fictional character, just always a person figure that I've tried to replicate, tried to take things that he does and put them into my own life.
Nice. I like that story. That's absolutely accurate. What are your thoughts in comparing him with Iron Man?
Yeah. That's a common question. I like it as well. I think if my dream, like life goal, like I want to be Batman / Iron Man, but even hands down, I'd say Batman because he's not in an iron suit. He's not.
That's true. He's not.
He still has all this technology. He's rich. Right? He's not protected by all that. He uses his brain, which so does Iron Man. But again, Batman took down Superman. Batman took down the entire Justice League. Iron Man's awesome. He is, but hands down, I would pick Batman, Bruce Wayne, over Iron Man because he doesn't need the suit.
He doesn't. No, you're right. That's a good point. I didn't look at it from that perspective because one of the reasons when I discovered Batman and the superheroes around the age of 19 because I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I didn't really follow any of the comics, but when I moved to the States, we had Michael Keaton Batman and we had George Clooney Batman.
Yeah.
And I was just super excited by watching Batman, right? It's like, all right, he's my superhero. And then Iron Man came out, and then I was like, all right, this guy's the one thing that I loved about that I loved more about Iron Man or Tony Stark specifically is that you get to see those moments where he's thinking and tinkering and building these things out of nothing, right? And so you get to see that production, that pre-production of things happening, coming together. And being a woodworker and being a hacker and assembler myself of many different things, I think it that part of the movie connected with me a lot more
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty. It was nicely captured, and those are some of my favorite scenes. Not him flying out and shooting down bad guys, but him like in his shop working on figuring out his the arm, the propellant or whatever. It was pretty cool.
No, absolutely. Marvel Cinematic Universe does a great job. Incredible job.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. So we'll definitely have all of the places that our audience can reach in the show notes. Some places, what is some of the quickest place that people can get to you besides the website?
Any social media platform. If you just search me at @tagjustq, I should pop up. LinkedIn is going to be the best spot, but IG, Instagram, I'm big fan of as well. YouTube, it doesn't matter. Just at @tagjustq, you should find me.
Perfect. Awesome, man. This was this was great. I do need to I would love to bring you on again, talk about some more deeper like content strategy, because that's something that I am like super interested in.
Yeah.
And like I'm strategizing myself on how to promote my own podcast on the different platforms. I've been creating content and looking at different ways to promote and bring attention. It's marketing. At the end of the day, marketing is something you got to do, but it's not like that's not always something that's going to catch people's attention.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Absolutely. There's no right, there's no wrong. You just got to find what works for you.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Do you have?
Man, just let me know.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any specific things you want to mention to my audience of Hacks and Hobbies, or any last words of wisdom?
I would just say, just keep playing, keep holding on to those hobbies. I think a lot of people forget to play. It's all about work. But people are more productive in their work when they play more. So just continue to play, continue to keep up those hobbies, and you'll be happier.
Cool, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you got it. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Hacks and Hobbies. You can find additional information on the guest today on their website, hacksandhobbies.com. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on upcoming interviews with amazing guests.